welcome everybody this evening. Do you have any?
I have one. Did I get that back from you?
Is that me?
Yeah, I gave you that too long.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Nellie,
Yes.
did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, Nellie, hi. You can come forward if you'd like to.
Have a few things here.
You can just stand by the table and use that.
Yeah, if you need that table, you can use that
I
table.
realized I did not have these optimally organized when I got here. But I do have a few resources for everybody that you can look at, and then we're only have a few minutes, so I'll try to be quick here.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
This one, and I have one for you too. Let's see one thing, but I'm not sure to it. Alright, so as you can tell probably by looking at my sources here, addressing the fact that we currently cannot have more than one duck in town, and as you already know by the ordinances, we can have up to 4 chickens. When you look through there, some of the first things you're going to see are the pros of having ducks. Not only are their eggs more superior than chicken eggs, there's just a lot of aspects about them that are a little better than having chickens, especially for some people. They're definitely less likely to tear up your lawn because they don't scratch. They're very great at foraging. They're very great for fertilizer for your garden. Noise-wise, you are going to have, it's very debatable among people. You can see those in the cons. If you look in the table of contents, it shows different pages where I have different facts. And but when it comes to noise, a lot of people that own ducks will say that they actually believe the ducks are quieter than chickens. And I know that is probably one of the main concerns about having ducks in city limits, so I wanted to mention that in there. Cleanliness wise, just like any other animal, you're going to have to clean up after them, but if you're willing to put in the work, it should be just about the same as taking care of any other animal that you might have, any other pet. They're just a great all-around animal to have in your backyard. I know there is a concern currently with avian influenza, and I just wanted to address that really quick. With your backyard flocks, whether it be chickens or ducks, they are much less likely to get the avian influenza because there's just a smaller group of them as opposed to where they're out in the wild and they're spreading it among themselves. That anyway, they have some resources there from the Kansas Department of Agriculture, some measures that you can take with whether it's with chickens or with ducks as to how you can lower the risk of that. It is something that is very rare for humans to contract, so that is something to take into consideration. I think that would be all I would have to say on there. I know you're looking through those things. I have some supportive comments there in the back. I also list my sources in case you're interested, and all of these pictures are actually from duck owners who gave me a lot of supportive comments as well as to having ducks in town. The next thing I would like to address, I did add what I would call, I assume, a draft of the ordinance if you were to change it. Obviously, you would not need to use mine. It's just a recommendation of what you could do if you decided that this would be an okay thing to do. But currently, if you'll see in one of the pictures I provided, I have a picture of our home actually, and we are renting. I do have a permission slip from my landlord if you were to let this pass, that he would permit us to have ducks. And I also have a sheet from with signatures from all of our neighbors saying that they would agree to us having them if you were to pass this. But the picture of our house shows that, I know currently you only allow enclosures in the backyard, but we don't really have much of a backyard, at least to allow the 3 feet between property lines. It wouldn't work out very well, so I just wanted to show you a potential layout that we would have if you were to allow this, and just to get your opinion on it and hopefully your permission to do this. I have a couple other things I could do if need be, but I do believe that's all I have for you. You're welcome to look through these, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I don't have any questions, but there are a lot of good information there, so.
And then for any...
Is there a
sorry.
specific kind of duck that you're talking about keeping, or?
Oh, not necessarily. They're, I would say any domestic breed is usually pretty good to keep. They're all, I think there's only like one domesticated breed of duck that can actually fly, which might be a potential hazard for getting out and wandering around. But most of the other ones, you don't even have to have a very high fence to keep them in because they're too heavy,
Oh, okay.
too heavy to fly. And I don't know if any of you saw, but I had put out a petition online as well, and I do have the signatures from that, if anyone would like to see that. Of course, I have the permission slip from my landlord and the signatures from my neighbor as well, or neighbors.
You probably should look at your petition.
Yes, the petition, here are the signatures from the petition, but I was not able to print out the petition. I do have a link to it, if you would prefer to look at that.
And the petition's all people living within the city?
Most people, they will see on there the zip codes next to the signatures. Some people, anyone can see your petition and sign it if they want, but it always includes the zip code so that you know who's actually from the city. And I encourage most people that if they were within city limits, sign. If you're outside of it, I know it doesn't necessarily mean much, but I did ask people who might be against it, because I didn't know for sure. I knew that would probably be the main thing, and I didn't really get anything back. I know one woman, again, had brought up the subject of noise, and then a duck owner who actually, I think she lives in town. She doesn't have ducks currently, but she had them before, and she was the one to say that her ducks were actually quieter than her chickens.
So what's our current ordinance say?
Just chickens, you know, yep.
Let's talk about half of these people are from Pass Road, there's 30. I'll pass that around so everybody can look at that.
Yeah, I put up some flyers around town that
And so this language here is something you,
yeah, of course, like I said,
Alter
you
it
would
to
not
try-
have to
alright,
use that at all. It was just an idea of wording that could be used if you were to change it.
But now you're actually saying you don't have room to put
Yes, as you can
in
see.
your backyard, it would be in your front
It would
side?
be, yeah, it's like a front side yard. I obviously could make that smaller if it would be preferred and if it would be permitted in the first place. If that would be preferred by all of you, but.
Because as a rule, our fencing ordinances don't allow 4-foot fences in the front.
We don't allow enclosures for pets or any animals in the front yard. That's what our current city ordinance says.
And that is something I actually included in the draft I had put, but only, I said, if it was to be permitted by the city, would anyone be able to have anything in a front or side yard? Because I would definitely be very happy to do it in a backyard if we had one that was within, that had the proper measurements anyway.
25 feet from your neighbors.
Yes. And 3 feet from the property line was the main concern.
Well, I don't know if any of you have had any interaction with anyone I've had 2 people tell me they don't think we should have ducks, and that's the only 2 I've heard from.
I've had about a handful of people ask me about it, but,
I haven't heard anybody
Not
in
in
favor
favor.
of it, but that doesn't mean that they've seen it, you know.
you know.
Not everybody has seen this going on, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've had about a handful of people tell me they're not in favor of it, so.
Did they express a reason why?
They just don't think we need to continue to add animals as pets to the city, you know, ducks. Because then where does it stop from ducks? Does it go to another quail, pheasants? Where does it go from there? It just, because then somebody's gonna want quail eggs or pheasant eggs and, you know, where does it stop? So that was the main concern is,
I can understand that.
you know, you're within the city limits and why we do allow chickens. That's kind of where we stopped the first time, and if you now allow ducks, then somebody's gonna come in wanting, like I said, pheasant or eggs or something like that, because people do eat those as well, so.
And while I understand, Mel, you take good care of them, there's always that chance that others are not going to, you know.
Yes.
That's something that we have to worry about, because we do get complaints at times about chickens being out, you know.
Or noise.
Uh-huh, and the noise. Anybody else heard anything?
What inspired you to want to keep ducks?
Well, when you look at these, at the first few pages that talk about the pros, there's just a lot of things that are a little bit easier than when it comes to raising chickens. Like for instance, the eggs, they go a lot farther than chicken eggs because of their size and because of the nutrient qualities to them. And just, I know some people prefer to have yards and things look a little nicer. So I know that they're not going to tear up my lawn like a chicken might, and I've been raised around chickens, so I have nothing against chickens. I just know that ducks are going to be a little easier in that sense. My mother is allergic to chicken eggs, and I thought it would be nice to see if she might be able to try duck eggs, because that's something I did mention in my informative packet there, that a lot of people that are allergic to chicken eggs can have duck eggs because of the difference in the proteins.
Have you raised ducks before?
I haven't personally, which is why I actually got in touch with multiple people that have, and especially people that are actually in urban setting. The supportive comments are from, I would assume most of them at least, were from people that raise ducks within city limits somewhere.
So what is our procedure, Nick, on discussing this? Do we just kind of table it tonight and have a discussion at some point?
That's up to you
between the
guys. You
next-
guys can do that and discuss it some more and bring it back at a future council meeting, or you guys can decide to just not do anything with it.
Okay.
So that's up to you guys.
Well, I would make a motion that we at least take until the next council meeting to look through the information and see what other information we can find and
Maybe even from the public.
hear from the public, yeah.
Could we use story media maybe to get the word out that we're talking about this, and maybe get some input from one of their, social media sites or something?
Well, you can have them post on social media about it.
And then make a comparison with the existing chicken ordinance to make sure
I
that.
mean, I'm kind of in agreement with everyone here,
here.
but if story media put something out and the whole town said, yeah, we ought to allow ducks, I think we would be obligated then to, oblige. So I think we ought to get an account from our constituency and see what they think about this, really.
Okay.
It affects more than just us up here, so.
And we have time. We have June 7th will be the next council meeting, so.
Is that a second, Mark?
That's a second.
Okay.
Roundabout second.
It took a long way around.
Well, you're all definitely welcome to keep the things that I provided for you. That's why I made multiple.
Thank
Very
you.
informative package.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
said.
Great job.
Tell you spent some money,
I spent
money and time
some
probably
time.
both doing your research, bless you, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, it's been moved and seconded to table the, addressing the ducks in the yards, the neighborhoods. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries, and we'll be with you next meeting.
All right, so I assume I should just show up next meeting and see
If you'd
what
like.
you've decided?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Kelly.
Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No further public comments, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Minutes from the previous meeting, the appropriations and lake cabin transfers were G5 and R5. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. No business, so we'll move to new. Superior Systems, John.
How are you folks this evening?
We're good,
Appreciate
thank
your time. It sure seems that I come before you guys, hand out again. Just requesting of the members of the council and the mayor to consider, I'm looking at a temporary increase of 50 cents per billed residential customer in the city, while the fuel prices are sitting at what they're sitting at. It's, like I said, it's a temporary measure.
In the
Once-
contract, it says anything over $4 you can request a temporary adjustment to help.
Based on me increasing the rate at the beginning of the year, I tried to hold off as long as I could. As soon as fuel prices breached $5 and fuel bills started rolling in at just short of $2,000 more a month than what they were, it was one of those situations. In fact, the day I got the bill, I gave Nick a call
Yep.
and said, there's no way, I'm gonna have to go to before the councils. It is a temporary measure. Once the fuel prices start decreasing, at your guys' discretion, you can reduce that.
What threshold would you
contract.
like to see it at, John?
I personally would like to see it, I'm a realist. We will never see $4 a gallon on diesel fuel again for quite some time. $4.50 for me obviously was sustainable. It wasn't overly comfortable, but I could sustain. Once we reached about $4.75 or above, it became very uncomfortable. And $5, it just doesn't look good. But at say $4.75, reduce it by, I'm requesting 50 cents. At $4.75, once it holds steady at $4.75, take 25 cents away. At $4.50, taking the other 25 cents away. Like I said, I don't like doing this.
Yeah.
Nick and I have spoken depth about what the ramifications of me coming before you the last time was. So it's one of those deals that if I didn't have to, I wouldn't.
We
If it
understand.
makes you feel any better, you're the third person today I've talked to that is trying to figure out how they're gonna do it. So,
I bumped into Nick Saturday. I broke a cable out at Rex Materials Group, lifting one of their dumpsters. I had used my spare and didn't order a second one last year. I ordered in 2. I ordered those yesterday morning without the expectation of them shipping them and having them to me before 2 o'clock today, and that shipping is gonna cost me $350. I figured I was gonna get it sometime around Thursday or Friday. But it's just nature of the beast. And they put it in big bold print for you. There's a fuel surcharge for getting it to you quickly. So,
I just wish everybody was willing to reduce their fuel surcharge when everything goes back down. Instead of just
Yeah.
forgetting about it, you know, oh, I like that money now.
Yeah.
but if you guys have any questions of me, if I can't answer them, I will be more than glad to.
Anybody have any questions?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Everyone's quite aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
I believe we're able on our bills to write a little blurb on the bottom of each
Yeah, we
bill.
will. Yeah.
We might put like a little explanation so people understand.
Yeah, we will. I can,
You know, what's going on.
Have Lisa do that.
If we, do I hear a motion to allow 50-cent temporary residential?
So moved.
Okay, and second, Keith?
Yeah, second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept 50 cent per bill temporary residential fee raise due to fuel costs. All those in favor?
Do we need to put that threshold in for bringing it back down? The 475?
It's already in the contract.
Yes, in the
Oh, it is?
contract. Yeah, our
Okay.
contract, anything over 4, you can request it. And then once it reduces down, we can reduce it down as
Okay.
it starts going down. So if he's comfortable with saying in a public forum, you guys vote on it, that at 475, reduce it by 25, and then at 450, reduce it to 50. I mean, I think that's fine.
Okay.
So,
So do you want that in the,
It's already in the contract.
it's in the contract, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
okay. Any other questions?
I
All in
have one.
favor? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead and vote then.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. 6-0.
Well, since you're standing there, are we good for Washunga Days? Have you been contacted about?
We have, in fact, I attended one of the planning meetings for it. I'm in the works with my distributor for our containers like what we've had in the past. He's trying to work out a deal right now with Deffenbaugh for me to buy some of their surplus. Just so we will have them for the events at the Riverwalk. It's just a matter of finding a amicable price, because the first one they shot to me, I can go to Home Depot, who buys them by the thousands, and buy them for about $50 less a container. So it's just one of those things, trying to find that, and have, I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Litkey. Well, sure, you play ball against him just like I have. I can't get steel containers, so I'm buying bulk steel from Holden Fence, and he's repairing them as quick as he can. But we will have containers for all of our events this summer that the city hosts down there.
You sure
And
bailed
some
us out
corporations.
last year, because no one had contacted you ahead of time, so we were scrambling with over full trash cans, and we really appreciate you getting down there and taking care of that.
Yeah, I didn't have to beg either, so.
Yeah.
No, it's just a matter of being able to coordinate it.
Yep.
So they got it coordinated with you this year?
They have.
Good, okay.
Yeah, good to go. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good night, man.
Okay, the next item I asked Nick to put on tonight's agenda, it wasn't on the original agenda, but we visited about it. We have, you all know we have a nice boat that we've gotten for the lake, and the dock that's there is not, it's not working well with the boat, and we're gonna either run the dock or the boat, or both, if we don't have a good dock there. And plus it takes 2 men to put it in, take it out, where it can possibly be done with one. And we're coming into our busy season, so rather than wait until the next meeting for the bids, I asked Nick to go get bids, and we have them tonight. So I'll let Nick take it from there.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just give you the proposals of what the total cost is, and then I'll let the gentleman discuss the particulars about it, so that way you guys can understand it in more depth than I can explain it. So, 3C Dock Builders price for it was $44,857.93, and I think Chris is here to can go through that proposal and answer any questions you guys may have or explain it to you. And when looking at the two bids, the only difference that is different is that Taylor didn't include electrical on his, but 3C did, Chris and them did, and then the lifts were a different size. Taylor's was a 7,000 pound lift, and 3C's was a 4,500 pound lift. Those were the biggest differences I noticed, you know, so.
Do you know what the boat requires?
It's a heavy boat. I don't know how much it weighs, but I imagine 6,000 or above is what it would probably require, would it not?
It's around 5,000 pounds.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. So I'll obviously abstain from that, but I went after the fact because we kind of had a tight deadline. You had mentioned you'd wanted those back on
Yep.
on Friday, and so I got it back really fast. We just kind of squirreling it out there because they had about 4 days time, and then we went back and double checked it, and Chris will have some numbers for you on what we got figured out with that. But
Okay, would you guys like to say anything about them?
Yeah, sure. Mostly just that I didn't know exactly, council, what the scope would be for the electrical layout that you would want, whether it's, 2 different double floodlights, more than one outlet. Also, not being an electrical contractor myself, there's also no real clean way to get a panel set up readily unless we determine kind of what that scope would be. Do we trench from a nearby light pole, that type of thing? So I'm all for providing that scope. I just need to know kind of the requirements for what that would be, as far as what direction we want to go, mostly. I would also just, again, without seeing anybody else's proposal, we did figure an 11 by 28 foot deep slip. 24 is common. We did propose a 28 as Nick had requested. Did a 20-foot gangway, concrete decking, 1 course of perimeter banding. That's a composite wood with black rub rail bumpering around it. We do have our pilings listed, itemized separately at a separate expense. That's basically an oil field piling. We drive the lake bed about 7-8 feet, sleeve it with PVC. That gives a lot of stability to docks. So that's a feature we like to always add and include with things. Yeah, and the lift, we did propose a 7,000 pound shallow water floating lift. It's going to be able to be used in about 3.5 feet of water. I also said at the last minute, I appreciate Nick printing them out, an aluminum vertical style lift option, 7,000 pound and a 6,000 pound capacity. That's going to be an aluminum style cable lift with pulleys. Good reliable lift. We've got some out there over 20 years. It can go in real shallow water. It needs the draft of your boat plus about 18 inches. So if that Boston Whaler needs 2 foot, add 18 inches, and that's the water that thing can still lift up in. Floating tank lifts need a little bit more because of the big bulky tank, framing, and then bunks than your boat. But those are just kind of some options to get us started. I'd love to be able to take out a boat, see the distance from shore that water depth would be for this proposed dock layout, because that's going to tell us, hey, boy, there's just not room for a floating tank lift, or hey, that is, and that's great, because that's what I would prefer, is a floating lift. It's always right off the water the same. Whereas a vertical lift, water comes up, that lift stays put till you raise that up on its own cable. So each lift has their pros and cons, but it just depends the layout for the water depth and that type of stuff. So, but yeah, I'll definitely answer any other questions I can too. So.
Any questions for Taylor? Okay.
I know absolutely nothing about it.
Due to the time frame in which to try to get the proposal back, there was an oversight on our part for the capacity of the lift. So in that proposal, the lift is a 4,500 pound shallow water lift. That would be changed to a 6,500 pound shallow water lift at the same proposed cost. And to kind of add to Taylor's electrical, it was pretty simple design because there wasn't any parameters. It's a 30 amp service with 1 light and 1 receptacle. And so if there was any changes to that, per council request, that could possibly be changed as well. Obviously work on that, but with you guys. But that is a kind of the basic, the 30 amp disconnect with 1 receptacle and 1 light. But as far as everything else, it's pretty much the same as what Taylor had proposed. 11 by 28 covered slip, concrete decking, the rub rail and the pylons as well, so.
Did you guys had railing around the,
Yes, and then,
I don't know if yours had that bit, Taylor?
Can you expand the
Railing around the slip and all that stuff. Did yours?
Not an actual handrail railing, it's just the perimeter bumpering. So I didn't know if there was a scope you needed for actual hand railing. If that is the case, we could certainly spec it. If it's to all be covered or maybe just on one L formation, but no, it's just, would be open deck. You know, bumpers on the columns, but there's no actual railing section off.
I think railing's a good idea because depending on who they pick up in the boat and drop off, you get somebody that's drunk and falling over and falls in the water because there's not a rail there.
There definitely is on the gangway, which would be pivoting, of course. That would have the handrail both sides as typical, but yeah, we could figure it. However many, you know, running feet of railing you would want, could attach into there.
our proposal included a simple rail and not necessarily the same design of the railing on the gangway, but it would include pipe, angle iron, that would actually wrap around the walkway perimeter of the actual covered dock. It doesn't include any pickets. They would actually attach to the roof. And so you'd have posts that would support the roof, and then we would have railing, a top rail, so to speak, that goes around that with no pickets in between. So if you would choose to have something a little bit different than that, that could all be modified as well. But the proposal included a top rail around the outside perimeter of the dock.
I'm not familiar exactly what the water depth is like right in that area, but are we gonna have ramp to get out deep enough where we can handle the fluctuation of the lake, or?
I don't think that area over there is
Pretty deep.
It's pretty deep right through there.
Where are we exactly wanting to put this? Right where that other dock is? or-
No, next to it where the old boat dock used to be.
Okay.
There's stairs there that go down to where when the caretaker was out there, he had his own dock in that area, and there's still stairs that go down.
So this is the other boat ramp farther in then?
Yeah, this is the one over where you guys,
Farther north.
caretaker's cabin
Okay.
down there.
It's actually, there's a little shelter house still there.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's the breakwater on the spillway, there's a little jetty, and so it would sit inside that jetty.
Right on the north side of that jetty there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that area typically has plenty of water. If I'm remembering right, when I fish through there, the depth finder's usually pretty deep right there, the water is.
It's gonna be a tough year. I mean, the closer you get to that jetty, the better the water is. There is kind of to the north, there is a little bit of a shallow spot kind of where closer to the existing dock, but if you get closer to the jetty, it does get better, so.
Just so I understand this right, the one bid does not contain the electrical,
That's
where the
correct.
other one does,
The other
right?
one does.
So, okay. I want to make sure we're gonna do that.
Do both beds have the piers, stabilizing piers?
My proposal does have a heavy fabricated steel plate that would bolt into the face and the top of that existing concrete pier. We basically drill and lag into the face, and then we drive rebar and puddle weld the top plate so there's no fastener exposed to trip over as you walk across the pier. But we do recommend anchoring that with a pure plate at the pier to pivot the gangway off of. So it would be connected, could hinge off of there. And then the pilings basically have the stability side to side. It doesn't restrict it from floating in or outwards with the water level change.
Okay, did you say that the piling was not included in this, the pilings?
My pilings are included in that total.
Okay.
At 37,
All right.
yes. They have a value of about $1,800 worth of expense in that bid.
Okay.
Included.
Okay. Other questions? I'm kind of like you, Jason. I know a boat floats. Hopefully that's about
They're
right.
supposed to. They're supposed to.
Yeah.
It's better if there's more water on the outside than the inside.
Gotcha. So taking into account the electrical not being in the one bid, I'm looking at the difference being about $3,700. Is that correct?
And they're gonna upgrade to the 6,000, leave it at the same price.
Okay.
But I don't know what it costs for electrical down there, so.
Time-wise, are we about at the same time as far as getting it installed?
If we were to get the green light on it, I could probably have it launched and built, ready to go by, it'd be a push for July 4th probably. But I do have this lift in stock right now and ready to go, would tag it sold. And I have most of the material ready to build it. I just have to allocate a little more, fabricate some stuff, but we're probably looking early July if we.
How about you, Chris?
He has us beat on that timeline. We would be more of August for our timeline.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion or a concern?
Do you guys have pictures of what yours would look like?
I can provide those.
And then same question for you, Taylor, do you have
You
kind
should
of
have-
something down there that?
Yes, but there's pictures in his, I believe, Taylor.
Yeah.
I do have kind of a floor plan view,
Yeah, floor plan of what it looks like.
Councilman Berger,
Yeah.
if that helps. It's not scale, but it shows the general layout. And we can certainly add in, of course, the scope to add the perimeter top rail, around things. But that's kind of the general layout. 4 feet fingers either side, 11-foot width, 20 feet depth for the slip. Makes it, 32 total lengthwise of the main dock, basically.
Is this something we need a decision on tonight?
Doesn't sound like it because it's not going to be installed all that quickly, so.
Well, then they need to know, well, it's up to you guys when you vote on it, but for order them to move forward, like Sean and them, they have to have money up front in order to even order the stuff.
To order
to
the
do.
parts.
So, yeah, so the longer we draw it out, the longer that beginning of July moves back to the end of July or middle of August or whenever.
So that is our typical, we waive that for the city, we know you're good for it, like we discussed, so we're good on that.
Yeah. I'm just saying in general, the longer we wait, the longer the timeline moves back, so.
Taylor, could you clarify for me the options on the shallow water lift? Is that in this, or is it an ad, or is it?
The
It should be just
newest,
an option.
yeah, the newest scopes I had printed out.
You should have sheets that look
Two
like
bids
this.
here, one for each.
Okay, I missed the other sheet, sorry.
Basically, there's a shallow water floating style lift, but then there's the vertical aluminum style lift that
Gotcha.
can
Okay,
go real
that's
shallow,
Yeah.
or at least more shallow. And so, but yes, the proposal is for the floating style tank lifts. They're a great option if you have the water depth. For some clients, you have to have 3.5 feet minimum to 4, but I think we'll have good water where this is going to be placed. So I don't think we'll have to have the aluminum vertical lifts because they are a little bit more if you look at those pricing, especially. I do have this inventory unit on hand that is at a pretty good price, ready to go basically, versus buying this newer aluminum lift at a little higher price now as markets have gone up.
Does everybody have an opinion on the vertical and all that? Sorry, I don't.
If the council chooses to go with a different style of lift, that is also something that I can provide. If it is something that the vertical lift, if council would like, I would like to present a proposal for that change order as well.
I guess maybe I don't know enough about the water there to know if you would even need that. I mean, you guys would know that, I wouldn't know that. If
Well, it
it's something
sounds
that-
like Taylor's kind of saying we wouldn't need that.
So I don't know
We
that
have
we need
enough
to.
water there for the,
Close on a really drought year, but that's,
Sure.
that's about it.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's something we wanna even consider. I mean,
True. I just kind of throw it in as kind of an alternative to say, this is worst case scenario, this could be an option, which
yeah.
is still, yeah.
Just FYI, you know, we have 3 weeks before the next council meeting, which is, moves it back to June 7th. So you're talking another 3 weeks before we can even reconvene on this, unless you want me to work with these guys and figure out the different cost on things, and I can meet with a group and figure it out, what they want to do. That's up to you guys. Because Taylor's gonna have some additional cost to the 37,000 that the electrical and then the railing, and we don't know what that is, so it's hard to compare.
Yeah.
that's
apples
where I'm
to-
at on it. I'd
that's
like to
what's
see
concerning
the
me.
electrical apples to apples
You
there.
know, and
I think that's only fair, that we get all the information from both before we make a decision.
so,
Yeah, because, and maybe have both alternatives from both.
I don't know that it's not, the boat lift thing, I don't know that that's necessary according to what Taylor and Chris are saying. It's an option, it's an option,
Go with the less expensive one then.
yeah. Unless you're in a severe drought, like when I started here, it was 12 foot below normal pool, which hopefully doesn't happen again, but that won't be the only dock that's not in use at that point.
Okay, is that all right if we table this until or give Nick the option to work with the guys for the best deal?
When I can work with the lake committee, since it
Lake
has to do with the
committee.
lake, and get the information, we can make a decision if you guys are okay with that.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
No,
I would do that.
I mean,
It's fine with me.
Every judgment.
Keith
Yeah.
and Larry are both on that.
Sorry.
Larry's more than qualified to look at this stuff, so.
yeah, so I think that if we can get the information from Sean and Chris and then from
Yeah.
Taylor this week, and then we can look at it and hopefully have something back to you guys on where we're going next week. I think that would be probably the best bet to get it done in a timely manner.
that work for you, Larry?
Yeah, at the moment anyway, I don't have any
Yeah, okay.
commitments for next week.
Well, they'll give me the information. What I'll do is I'll message you guys and I can email it to you, or we can get together and meet and look at it and come up with a decision on it.
That way it will be a little more timely because it is important to
Well,
be out there.
Sean brought it up to me this morning, because they're getting ready to take the boat out, and I'm like, well, it takes 2 of us, and that boat is gonna tear that dock up out there, because it's such a big boat, so. But
Okay.
if you guys are good with that,
Then, do we need to have a motion on that bill or is just?
you will, since we're spending money, so allow us to.
Well, yeah, because we allow you to spend, you could like the committee.
Yeah.
Okay, so, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we let Nick and the Lake Committee get together with Taylor and 3C, Adams and TC to come up with the final bids and make the decision on the boat dock.
Okay. Do we need a not to exceed amount?
Probably, but you could make that not to exceed amount pretty large, so you're, you know.
I can't imagine the
Not to
extras going
exceed
over
$50,000.
50,000, yeah.
Okay. When you come
I
out of
second
late.
that.
Yep, much improvement.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to have Nick and the Lake Committee work with 3C and Adams to get proposals and bids on boat docks with them and make the decision not to exceed 50,000 to come out of the lake fund. All those in favor? Opposed? And abstention, right?
Yep.
Okay, motion carries.
Thanks,
You
guys.
You guys wanna work on that and try to have something for you by the end of the week and then I can get them for sure.
Even second.
Sure.
The two most non-Odie people on the list.
I don't see how to word it, so I'm like, I'm gonna give it a try.
Yeah. Sorry for all the confusion, but we'll figure it out.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, see you guys.
Thanks.
Okay. Recreation Department, seasonal employee appointment.
Real quick, Mayor,
Uh-huh.
the reason Justin needs another seasonal maintenance guy is because one of his maintenance guys can only work in the evenings and he's gonna be doing ball games and stuff like that, so Justin doesn't have to be over there, which leaves him with him and his daughter to do everything else, mowing, the chalking, the prepping the fields. So Steve's gonna help with the mowing and some other stuff, so Justin is freed up to do other things and just ride a mower,
Okay.
so.
How long ago did Steve retire from Wilsey Water District?
He's still there.
Is he?
Yeah, he's gonna do this part-time.
Okay.
I come in and mow probably in the morning with school and go do that in the afternoon or vice versa. I don't know what he's decided, but yeah.
I see.
Okay. So at this time, I'd like to appoint Steve Taylor for general maintenance at a rate of $12, part-time for the rec department. And I would appreciate a motion to approve that appointment.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Flood map, floodplain mapping ordinance update.
Yeah, so let's go through this. This will be fun. It's page 43 through 67. This has been going on. This is going on before Larry retired, trying to get through this whole process.
Oh, yeah.
It's been going on for a while. So finally, they came up with their final determination on what the floodplains are. James has maps in his office. But the ordinance part of it, we can go through and add and be more strict in what their requirements are, which is what we've done. And that's what I was going to go through with you guys, so you guys understand what we're doing. So starting on page 6, well actually Article 4, Section A, page 6. Don't worry, I have all of it written down here. So we can... And I'll go through the list of items that were added that weren't in there to begin with. So on page 6, it'd be item 7, so number 7, agricultural structures was added to that section. You guys can read through that if you want to, or I can keep going.
Yeah.
You guys ready to move on?
Okay, under 7, that includes all of the subsections A to H and.
Yeah, so yeah, you'll have, yeah.
J.
So you have accessory structures,
Okay.
critical facilities.
Where did that information come from?
All that information was from the state.
Okay.
So the state gives you another subsection of things you can add
Right,
into your
that's-
ordinance, which they recommend you do.
Mhm.
But some cities don't have the potential to have those problems, so they don't have to add them.
Right.
We do have the potential here to have those problems with those structures. So they recommended to us that we add, not just leave it the way it is. So it all came from the state.
Yeah, that's what I suspect.
Yeah, this ordinance, everything in this ordinance is from the state. And we had the ability to add, to make it more strict than it was, with the understanding that if you came across a situation where somebody wanted a variance, the planning and zoning committee would look at that and either grant a variance or not grant a variance. So that's the way it would be governed, is that group would meet and decide whether they want to let you build something in a floodplain, so. But, so then on page 8, number 8, accessory structures was added.
So basically just sheds.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So page 9, number 9, critical facilities.
If the water gets to the hospital, we're in trouble.
Well, it's not in a floodplain, so we're all right. Well, we might be if the dam breaks out here at the reservoir, then I think the whole town's in trouble. So even
Speak
showing
for
up,
yourself.
even showing up on the hill,
I don't think so.
it's gonna wash out. It's gonna wash in
Well,
the
this-
whole house, the whole
I
mountain.
would think I just won't have a place to go two Tuesdays a month.
You know, they base those on the lowest living floor in your building.
Well, that's a good point.
However, the lower you are, the more
Which is
it costs you
basically on
every
admission
year.
at my house.
Yeah,
The lower it is. Now, your address is Belfry, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
But my bottom floor is on commission, it seems.
how many feet in?
yeah. So, and then on page 9, number 10, hazardous materials, we added that.
Probably makes sense.
Yeah. Then on page 9, number 11, community, I can't say the word.
Cumulative.
I said it in my mind, but I couldn't say it in my mouth. Improvements was added. And then if you go to page 10, residential, non-residential was already there. The only thing that we added to that was mechanical and HVAC equipment servicing the building must be elevated or flood protected to the same level as the lowest floor. So we added that wording to that phrase. We also did that for manufactured and mobile homes, which is on page 9. And it was part D and part A of that, and we added that. Or I added, I shouldn't say we. And then on page 13, we added section G, conditions of approving temporary structures. And then on page 14, 15, Article 5, floodplain management variance procedures. You guys, I can read it too. It says the Board of Planning and Zoning shall act as the appeal board established by the City of Council Grove and shall hear and decide appeals, requests for variances from the floodplain management requirements of this ordinance. So, and then once I was done adding all this stuff in and filling it all out, it got sent back to the state. And the chief engineer for floodplain management had to look through it and make sure that we weren't missing something or something wasn't going to work for our area. And I think it says on the last page there that he approved it on the 12th of May. And with that, on June 7th, we'll have to hold a public hearing before our council meeting starts to adopt this ordinance. And then I have to have it turned back into them before July 19th. That's their hard deadline to do this, so there's not an option whether you do it or not. The state is requiring you to adopt this ordinance in some form or fashion.
Does the county have to do this as well?
Yes.
Yes.
That is part of the 2-year delay. The city was prepared to do this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
our floodplain maps and everything were all settled 2 years ago. During our last meeting at the courthouse, the county decided, since they have not participated in this program ever, that they wanted to be part of it. So ours got put on hold until they did the rest of Morris County.
So they got theirs finished.
So they have it, and there's a couple of reasons for this. If you don't sign on to this and implement this, they can deny you any disaster aid funds
So it's important.
for anything, weather, natural disasters, whatever.
Anything.
And they were making threatening noises to the county 2 years ago about that. And the city by itself cannot generate enough damage to qualify. It takes the county and the city both in order to have enough damage claims in order to qualify for these funds.
To apply for the disaster funds.
Right.
Makes sense.
And there is one other thing in here, I know without looking at your maps, I did find it online
Okay.
and looked at it again. What I was looking for, I thought I highlighted it. Okay, Article 2, lands to which ordinance applies. Section A, page 2.
Where's it on page?
I'm being serious. No, I'm on page 2. Probably out of order.
But there was one more thing I wanted everyone to be aware of.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, what this says is, this ordinance shall apply to all lands within the jurisdiction of the city of Council Grove and Morris County, identified as numbered and unnumbered zones on the floodplain insurance map. Dated. He says, jurisdiction is the key word in it. They also, part of the city's floodplain area for responsibility is the 3 mile extraterritorial property that we declared. So it isn't just the city. All of this will apply to the 3 mile area outside, and anything beyond that, the county has to take care of.
Yep.
But just so everyone's aware, but your permits and all of that stuff in that 3 mile area has to come from the city.
From the city.
Yeah, okay. Those are.
Keeping us covered, basically, is what we're doing, right, yeah. Okay.
Be close. We gotta be real close.
Okay. Thank you, Larry, for putting that out.
So we probably need to have a motion to have the public hearing on June 7th. I've already, go
I had
ahead.
a question. When, they have an opportunity, don't they, for
People can come in and request to see the maps and things like
appeal
that.
of the maps?
Yeah, they can come in and see, yeah, so what I put in the paper
Mhm.
says they can come in and view the maps and ask questions of me or James.
Okay.
And then the public hearing people, if they have questions for the council, they can come in during that public hearing time and have, if they have concerns regarding.
I didn't know whether that had any bearing on our adopting the resolution tonight.
Well, you have to, so it has to be, I put it in the paper Monday. It
Right.
has to be posted Monday and be 20 days after that,
Okay.
which is the following, the Monday, I think Sunday or Monday before the next council meeting, which works out good because we have to have it turned back into them by July, so. So June 7th would be the public hearing before we have the council meeting, as long as you guys approve doing that.
Will they assist us in that public hearing? I think that was discussed at some time.
See, the information I got from Cheyenne, the gal I'm dealing with,
Okay.
she didn't say anything about assisting us with answering questions or anything like that.
Okay, I know at
So,
one time, several years ago, they were
Yeah.
making an offer.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
I'm sure they're short-staffed like everybody else now, so.
So essentially tonight, we just need to set the public
Yes.
hearing
It'd be the first thing we do on the
do.
agenda after we do the
Yeah,
flag
there
study
it
is a
is.
public hearing. As long as you guys approve having a public hearing.
The other thing, your bankers will tell you also that if you're in the floodplain and the city doesn't adopt this, they can't loan money.
Yeah.
You'd have to pay cash for it. There's no financial institution anywhere that will loan money on a floodplain property where you don't have floodplain insurance.
I can tell you I learned a lot by going through and working on this ordinance, so. Because it got passed from Larry to James, and James passed it to me to deal with, so.
Have you looked to see if this affects anybody in town as far as floodplain insurance?
Not much has changed with the map, with the city, inside the city limits.
It's minor. What, the biggest area that they've changed, and they changed it due to these lomas where individual properties were removed from a floodplain. And this was in an area on the east side of town, down around 3rd Street and 4th Street, down to Elm. And there were people, half a dozen houses probably, that submitted it, had their property surveyed, and had them removed. So consequently, with the new LIDAR that they set this new standard by, they have moved that floodplain further north out of that area. But they have increased it along this creek out here, and where it circles around and comes up.
Yeah, so like the ball fields and stuff like that, part of the ball fields that are in it now that weren't before, Molten Soccer Complex.
Are there any addresses that we should reach out to and let them know they've been added to the floodplain or anything like that, or is that even our responsibility?
Yeah, they just, I mean.
Because not everybody's probably gonna see the maps on that.
Yeah, but their insurance agents should notice it and deal with it, but.
That's why
I don't know that the insurance agents would take the time to.
So,
someone who has a
I'll-
mortgage may
Unless
get
their
a
home
note on
offices
this,
tell
so they may require them to get flood insurance, their mortgage may require flood insurance is what I'm kind of getting
And
at.
if their home's paid for, that may not be insured and they wouldn't know.
So is there any?
I can look at the maps. The thing, the maps, it
service type
doesn't,
thing?
I can send you guys the maps and you guys can look at them. And you guys can decide if you think that's something we need to do or not do. Realistically, there's not.
Now, some of these
Legal, but
also are grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Existing, non-conforming type situations. And what that means is until it's sold, if it's sold, that's the first strike that keys it into the new floodplain
No.
territory. And if you're not in a floodplain now and sell it, same deal. Any change in ownership will require you to have floodplain insurance if you're in a floodplain area. So for the people, the owners right now, it's not gonna be critical, but at any time they decide to sell them, they may have some other issues to deal with, from my understanding of it to this point.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if I was in a situation where my home was in a floodplain and I didn't know it, I might want to be told,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and, you know, even if I've got the option of having insurance or not.
Yeah. They have a website. You can go on and pull the map up and expand it down to the streets and.
Because what I was planning on doing, once we get this all approved on June 7th, was having the girls put something online about, you know, with the maps, showing the floodplains and telling people they need to maybe contact their
It'll
insurance
zoom in and
agents.
show you the properties.
Yeah, so that's the way I was gonna handle it.
Okay.
They need to do the research of their. if they're
Right,
concerned.
yeah, I mean, I think us providing the information, there's no difference in having a public hearing, put a notice in the paper, you know,
Right.
people aren't gonna show up,
Yeah.
you know, but if we put it online and share it and the girls direct people to it, I think that'll make a big difference, so.
I suspect when the word gets
See a
out.
headline in the paper now, city builds an arch.
Yeah. Yeah, they can go yell at the state of Kansas about it.
But we don't have a choice.
Yeah, we don't have a choice, so.
Yep.
They can argue it, and everything that was adopted in this, well, not adopted yet, but was put in this ordinance can be appealed, or a variance can be requested to have what you want, just like we do at City Lake or anything else. Where we have an ordinance, you have the ability to ask for a variance.
So we need a motion to
Have the public hearing, yeah, set the public hearing for, the June 7th at 5:30.
I'd make a motion that we set a public hearing to review the ordinance for June 7th. before the council meeting
At the city hall?
at the city hall
At 5:30.
at 5:30.
I'll second everything Jason just said.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Might ask this question. So if somebody comes and opposes it, is that gonna put us behind the date?
It's up to you guys to, it's no different than any other public hearing. You guys can listen, and if somebody doesn't like something that's in here and that we've added, you know, you guys can consider removing it, but you don't have to. It's no different than when you do the budget hearing or any other hearing. You're just listening to public opinion, and at the end of the day, it's up to you guys to approve it. The only difference with this is, with some of the other public hearings, you don't really have a choice in this. I mean, we have to approve it. We have a hard deadline, or we get in trouble if we don't have it submitted by July 19th.
That was my question, since he has already approved it, you know, they've already approved it.
Yeah, they've approved
We
our
really don't
draft.
want to change it.
Yeah, they've approved our draft,
Yeah, okay.
so.
All right. Keith, do you want to talk about executive session?
Okay, how much time do you need?
What do you think? I don't know if 30 minutes is enough to do all that. We say we can shoot for 30, I think you should ask for 45.
Okay. At this time, I'd make a motion that we go into executive session for attorney-client privilege of city lake matters for 45 minutes to include the mayor, the entire council, city attorney, city administrator.
So,
Second, you mean?
Yeah,
for seconds.
that's what he means.
That's what I mean.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Let's see. We're back in session and we're ready for governing body comments. Jason Booker.
Every time you do that,
I forget what I was gonna say.
You want me to come back to you?
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
please.
Mark Burner.
The only thing I had was about the boat. Do they clean the hole on that thing when they take it out of the water for the season?
Yeah, they winterize it and clean it.
And they get the hull cleaner and, because that's awful, it's stained is what it is, but I don't know if that's,
It was like that when we got it.
was it really? Okay, yeah, that's.
Because the
that's
core
fine.
leaves are both in the water pretty much.
Yeah, I didn't know if they, I was just gonna recommend if they haven't cleaned that hole, they probably ought to at some point. But if they're doing it, no big deal. That's all I had.
Okay. Keith?
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor, thank you.
I don't think I have anything either.
So, I have is there a project in the plans for the state of Kansas, you guys know, to re-asphalt 56 through town? Is that upcoming?
So we get C-CLIP money, and we are responsible from the city limits of Council Grove.
Right.
And we do have a project for next 2023 to resurface 56 through town.
Through
And
town.
part of that, starting at the stoplight all the way to the bottom, to the end of Belfry Hill, 100, 200, 300 block will get re-asphalted because it's so alligator cracked, you can't crack seal and put.
Right. And see, I was unaware of that, and maybe it was, I don't remember talking about it. Is that something we had taken care of?
That's something I've talked about.
January?
No, I've talked about it. I gave an update on where we were at with that.
Okay. So with that stopping there at Belfry, coming off the hill, that drain right there,
That's included in the.
Yeah, it's included.
it's gonna be repaired, like,
That's
yeah,
right.
that's, yeah, that's.
Yeah, that's
When did
included.
we do that walk? That was.
We walked that early spring, it is.
Was it really early spring?
Yeah, it was
It
the
cold
first
then.
of year, so yeah, we walked it and then I did an update on it. So, but I can look back through my notes.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, so it does all that. And I'm trying to think.
Several.
Instead of doing chips, I can't remember what they recommended instead of chips this year time.
I'd have to look back.
It's marble chips or granite chips or something like that, that produce less dust and are actually better than they've started using a lot more.
Yeah, I know the chip and seal they did at Belfry was extremely dusty.
That's county, so
Yeah.
you're welcome. You have a black, problem is you have a black vehicle. So, and you have a pool.
When they did,
pool
when they did
up there.
Washington Street, we didn't open our windows for 6 months.
Yeah, it's every vehicle.
The good and bad part about it is they put plenty of chips on there. So,
Yeah, well, the only thing that worried me about that on Belfry, that's a lot of chips running down into that sewer. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I thought about, but I didn't.
yeah.
Because they were piling up right there. I mean, they would all just pile up right there at that sewer drain, whatever. So that's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you for answering that.
Yep.
Larry?
I have nothing this evening.
Sharon? Okay, Bill?
No matter.
Nick?
Hold on, I got one thing. You guys are going too fast for me. Sean talked to me this morning. He had somebody approach him that lives over in the 100, 200 block of Donnan and Guston. They went over there and kind of sat and watched people drive through there. And what he's recommending, or requesting, is that the council approve and the 100 and 200 block of Donnan to Guston on 10th Street be changed from 30 to 20 miles an hour. Because there's a bunch of kids in that area and people drive like idiots through there. We did it on that one section, but we didn't do the other section, if you remember. But he's requesting that after his guys have been over there kind of watching that area after some complaints.
I think all of our side streets should be 20, so I'm for it.
So,
Okay, so do you want to, somebody want to make a motion of that?
I make a motion, we lower the speed limit from 30 to 20 on Donnan between 10th, help me out here, Nick.
so 100, 200 block of Donnan to Guston on 10th Street.
100, 200 block of Guston on 10th Street.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
How hard would it be to do that citywide?
It wouldn't be hard to do, it'd be expensive though, because you gotta buy signs and.
We had signs for Washington Street, what were we doing? It's not to the lake.
Easy, chief.
We weren't on that until then.
I know,
Keep
I
that
know.
dust down.
I actually know of a really good yard that those signs could go in.
Well, that's.
Guy has like a 4-car garage and
Yeah.
a robot in his front yard mowing his yard. Yeah,
Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second? Second. Moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Thank you all.